Eden Town Hall.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Eden Town Hall, number 29. Today is Sunday, December 18th, and I'm here with Jesse, who's the Chief Delegate, and CAC, and Patrick, and Michael, who's very active in the Telegram community. And, well, there's a lot to discuss, and I'm interested to hear what everybody thinks about Eden going on this week. And one big topic that I think is helpful to discuss is the recent proposal from the Chief Delegates. So Chief Delegates recently had their 10th meeting, and it just came out, I believe, 2 days ago. And they made a proposal that is quite a big proposal. It changes the way that Eden works and distributes funds and so forth in many ways. Jesse was one of the people who at least helped craft this proposal and talked about it on the Chief Delegate call. So maybe it would be best. Well, first off, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining, and feel free to say hi or anything if you want to. And then also, Jesse, if you'd like to share a little bit about this proposal and your thoughts, then that would be very cool to hear about it.
Yeah, first I want to say that it doesn't change the structure, but it does change the expectations. So the chief delegates have the active keys to the Genesis.Eden account. And technically, they can drain the whole treasury if they wanted to. And so from a technical point of view, there's no changes here. But of course, some expectations are really important in the community. We really care about our reputations, and we want to be aligned with hopefully a super majority of the community. And this is what I'm looking to do. We put out the proposal, no actions have been taken. We want to do polls. We want to talk to people. I want to get a sense on the specific actions we are proposing. So those actions are the expectation that CDs can pull from the treasury to fund the OpEx account. The recent donation from Block 1 had most 450K EOS into the treasury, but there was 50K EOS into the OpEx account. And the CDs recently pulled funds from that OpEx account to pay Adenia for a month of running the infrastructure for Eden. And I know that there's been a debate about this, particularly in the last term of the chief delegates, that one side would say, oh, it's risky to rely on the CDs because we don't know who they are, and the L1s to donate their funds for critical infrastructure to Eden. And the other side will say, well, if it's so critical, then the delegates will donate the funds to get that done. And so the current CDs are in the realm of wanting to ensure that there's the critical infrastructure, like I mentioned, but there's other initiatives that can be funded. And we feel that it's important to allow the CDs that are trusted, that are voted, to have the ability to fund these other proposals. And so that's the big one. The other, I guess, big proposal is to use either the treasury right now or the OpEx account to spin up 3 Edens. And I'm glad, so Sangyong just joined. He's in the Korean Eden community. The 3 languages that the CDs are considering are Chinese, Korean, and Spanish. And we envision a global Edens. So the current CDs are thinking of this specific instantiation of Eden to be an Eden of Edens, not only an English Eden, where it supports other languages. And so we're proposing to use funds to spin up those languages. And in my personal, and so it's me and it's the other CDs. I read the Telegram chats. fireside chat, it seems like there's widespread support. But part of the reason that I'm here right now and we want to do more polls is we will, at least for me. So again, the CDs are 5 people. I'm just one person. But for example, if we did a poll and there was a clear dissenting view on that poll from Eden members, I would likely not vote to pull funds right now to spin up the other language Edens. And I do also acknowledge that, yes, there could be widespread support for the other languages, but not for the way that we're proposing to fund those languages. So I do understand that. And yeah, that's basically it. So just to summarize, we're on the 4th season of Eden. All of the funding has come directly from a smart contract treasury distribution. And in my opinion, so this next part, well, I don't think it's just my opinion, but I also think that there's probably widespread agreement that there is a lack of participation in Eden. And every election, there are multiple L1 delegates that, it's not their fault. Either they're not funded enough, or just the incentives are not right, that they're not contributing so much to Eden. So they go in an election, they get the funds. So, and either they claim the funds or they don't claim the funds. So we have pretty surprising statistics that show that there is a lot of unclaimed funds out there. Now, a big part of that was from Aaron Cox in season 1, and those he transferred to the OpEx account. And so he would be someone who would maybe be favorable to the proposal that we're mentioning. He funded the OpEx account. But that's just the rest of those, I believe, and I'd have to double check, but I do believe that most of the rest of these unclaimed funds were from L1s. And so, yeah, that's about it. Really looking forward to hear feedback here. And yeah, thanks everyone.
Great. Well, yeah, thanks a lot, Jesse, for providing an overview. Welcome, Chris, and welcome, Sangyong. Thanks for joining. Great to see you, Chris. And also, pleasure to meet you, Sangyong. I think I have followed your work, but I'm not sure if we met before. Great to see you as well. Thanks for joining. And yeah, feel free to share your thoughts for anybody who just joined. Jesse just gave an overview of the recent proposal from the Chief Delegates, which is a very interesting proposal, which I'm sure will spark a lot of discussion and already has. So yeah, I've got some thoughts, and I wrote down some notes that I have some questions and thoughts to share, but I'd love to hear from anybody else first about thoughts from Jesse. Also, Sangyong, if you'd like to introduce yourself to everybody or say hello or anything like that, would be great. And Chris, if you want to share your perspectives on this proposal, or add anything, or just say hi, then that would be cool too, and appreciated.
So hello everyone, and really good to see you in here, everyone. And actually, I'm a bit confused that I can join here or not. I just saw the link of the Eden Town and I just joined. Is it okay that I join here?
Yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome to join. Thank you for joining.
I'm from in Korea, and I'm just currently working in the East Pole and the East Beach, and just have a great work with the Jesse. I appreciate all of you. So yeah, I'm glad to join here. Yeah.
Sounds great. Well, yeah, thank you very much for joining. And then thank you also for the work that you're doing with Eden Korea too. I'm looking forward to either at some point in this conversation or just over time, just learn more about what you've been doing with Eden Korea. I've been following Eden Korea's work in general, and know you're all doing a lot of really exciting work there. So I'm very much looking forward to learning more and collaborating more with you in the Eden Korean community.
Yeah, so very soon I'll bring the concrete region and the current, like the actual region for you, bring it here. I'm looking forward to do that too. Yeah.
Cool. Although I'm not sure if I totally heard you say very soon you're going to do what?
I'm looking forward to bring actual concrete result about the Eden Creek. We're just currently preparing the launch. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I saw a recent tweet showing, I don't know, maybe a few weeks ago or a month ago, I'm not sure exactly from when, but you had some sort of testing done and it looked like a bunch of people were happy to be there with a cool picture.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that as well. And looking forward to seeing more results too. And
I'm really glad that you saw that.
oh yeah, I was happy about it. I actually featured a little bit on a live stream. I did a Pomelo live stream where I gave some EOS and I supported Eden Korea a bit as well. Then I featured that. So I'm very happy to see your progress. I'm stoked about what's going on in Eden Korea. So and then perhaps that goes in with this conversation too, because Jesse and Chris and the chief delegates, their proposal, part of it is to help fund Eden Korea too. So perhaps that could also be something that helps you achieve the results faster and make more progress. So I'm very interested to hear your perspective on this proposal as well.
Thank you so much about your interest in the Korean communities. And we just actually we have some lacking human resource and the fundings, but it was really big help that you donated to the Eden Korea communities. We simply relying the funds on that. Yeah, it was big help, and I'm really glad that you aware that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm thrilled to be helping Eden Korea, and I want to help much more. And I'm excited that the Eden English-speaking community is talking a lot about supporting the Eden Korean community more. And I'm excited that there's a lot of great people in Korea also working together to make it happen and to grow the Eden Korean community. Eden, it's super helpful, as we can all agree here. And so yeah, spreading it in Korea is really, really important. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Yes, I'm late. Hopefully there's not a crazy echo. Can you hear me okay, or is it really bad?
Tiny echo, it's fine.
It just sounds like you have like a sort of godly voice that you're speaking from the heavens or something, but it sounds good though. I'm just
okay. No, it's the crazy acoustics in this place I'm in. So good. I'm glad it's bearable. Cool. I missed the beginning, obviously. So I think we're talking about the proposal that the chief delegates have come up with in the most recent meeting that we had on Friday.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I guess I have a general question. I'm behind in the members chat now since I woke up this morning, but obviously there's some contention around a lot of the proposal because one of them is drastically changing the funding model and really what the purpose of this Eden community is and how we allocate funds. So that's a huge deviation. And the other piece is unilaterally pulling funds from the treasury to specifically for the purpose of supporting New Edens, just like what Sangyong is doing. So I'm just curious what people think. I mean, in here, like what Dan, Patrick, Michael, CSE thoughts on that? Like, there's two big things there, and they both could have their own huge conversation. So, I mean, you got to start somewhere, I guess.
Yes.
All right, CSE, would you like
you like it? All right, good. That's support. I like it. I'll take it.
CSE's got a simple support. Would you like to elaborate on your thoughts about that, CSE, Joy?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about. I haven't done much research yet.
Oh, okay.
Well, here I can probably give you the Coles notes if that helps.
Okay.
So that the fun. Let's go back to what we just said. Sangyong and the other Edens. One of the things we wanted to do was take roughly $36,000 to $40,000 and use it to, because right now we know Edenia started the current Genesis Eden when they forked from, or they took the code and ownership of the infrastructure from the Fractal team. That startup cost was roughly $11,000 to $12,000 US to do that. And then on top of that, there's a monthly infrastructure fee. So it's around $1,500 a month. So the idea was, let's take some of this new money we just got from Block One, as contentious as that might be, and and actually deliberately pull outside of the election schedule. And this is the contentious part, which I fully recognize, and we all recognize this, but take enough to start to basically give that amount of money to the Korean, Chinese, and Spanish communities to then start, because as Sangyong mentioned, there's a human resource problem and a funding problem. So we know that the ENF is willing to fund the Korean and Chinese communities after they get going, but that's a bit of a chicken and an egg problem. We're expecting a lot of the community now to work for free. And then even when they get funded in the treasury, it doesn't reimburse all the work that was done. It goes into a treasury and they're going to get stuck in the same problem we're in now. Can you unilaterally pull from the treasury to like reimburse people for their costs? So it's kind of not a great situation. So the idea is we would take money deliberately from our treasury as chief delegates, which we can do within our contractual, like the smart contracts allow us to. And by the strictest definitions, it's actually not prevented in the bylaws. It should be, maybe. That's a fair comment, and that could be there too. But it's not actually prevented in the bylaws. So that's one idea, is to take money deliberately and use it. And it's not a lot. I mean, we're talking $36,000 to $40,000 out of the 500 we just got, and seeding these other Eden communities, because I think we all agree that the importance of having this thing being global is really important. We want to increase membership. We need to, in order to do that, we need to have it in multi-languages. And we already have not great fluent English speakers in our current Genesis Eden because they want to participate, but they have nowhere to go. So it's some of us are disappointed or don't like the idea. There isn't great English speakers, but can you blame them? Like, they want to participate. So that's the idea. That's number one. Maybe we'll leave it there before we go into the whole other concept of restructuring how Eden works. Does that make sense, CAC?
Yes, I'm all for, paying people for their effort, like developers and paying for the infrastructure. But I got a question, not kind of unrelated, but I'm just curious about what are the regulations in China regarding crypto? I know there was like a big crackdown. Is that going to affect anything?
I do not know. And I know Sangyong's in Korea, so I'm not sure if anyone on the call is going to know the details.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I'm all for, doing what you say. And I mean, I would want to read more about the proposal, but I'm all for paying people for their work.
And you're not like morally opposed, because the argument we've heard loudly voiced is that by taking from the treasury without going through the election process is stealing from the community. And those are strong words. Do you agree with that contention?
No, I mean,
or at least that perspective?
The level 1 delegates and the chief delegates were voted to manage this thing. So I mean, as long as they're being transparent on where the fund's going, I'm not opposed to that. But then also, of course, as you know, we're going to have to find a way to continue to fund Eden. So don't want to just, run the treasury dry and then have no money left.
Yeah, well, it does set a precedent, right? So if we do this, we don't put in bylaws that then prevent, or at least not prevent this, but really focus it, because we've come up with a reason to do this that is, we can argue, is not self-serving, and it's not for any of our individual projects, it's for the greater community. What's to stop the next set of chief delegates for coming up with another thing, but it's $100,000? And so it is a precedent-setting action, and to your point, that could drain the treasury. So there is certainly caution there. Patrick, I'm curious to hear what you think about this. Oh, I think it might be.
You got to remember, this is all an experiment. So if it fails miserably, we'll just learn from the lessons.
Well, also, hopefully we'll have a successful experiment and will not need to fail miserably or learn from lessons. But it is true, we'll learn along the way and iterate. Also, I don't know if Patrick can hear us. Pat Novajoy, can you hear us? And secondly, welcome, Mo, and thank you for joining. Oh, Patrick is saying yes, but I suppose holding some thoughts back, Patrick, would you like to...
I just wanted to say real quick, I busted out of that poker tournament. I just went all in because I didn't care anymore.
Okay. Yeah, I heard Jesse went all in firsthand too, and it didn't work out. So I suppose I wish best of luck for everybody else who's still there. Pat Novajoy, I'm not sure if you heard Chris Barnes asked you like a minute or two ago. He said he was curious to hear your opinion about these proposals and these discussions so far. Would you like to share your thoughts? Unfortunately, you're muted right now. It's not muted to mute in Zoom, but something on your system is not is preventing us from hearing you right now. Okay. While Patrick gets that figured out, yeah, I'd also like to welcome Mo. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate all the messages. I know you've been very engaged in this discussion, as well as in Eden in general for a long time, and also doing great work with the Eden NFT and reputation system. So if you just like to listen, that's cool too. But if you'd like to share your thoughts about these proposals or just say hello, then that would be very welcome as well. And also, Michael was sharing some thoughts too. Michael joined before Chris too, so I don't know if you want to share your thoughts directly with Chris here, or I can share my thoughts too, or Sangyong, you want to share more thoughts about this, or I mean, it's kind of open forum, so if people have thoughts or a idea of how is best to proceed, then feel free to share. If not, then I can also share some of my questions and comments about this.
I mean, I have thoughts about this. I mean, I get the reason why you want to redirect some funds from the treasury to funding the other Edens. Like, that's rational at this point. And you have the funds. I'm more concerned about I'd be curious, what was the plan? Was there never a plan to have like multiple Edens emerge from different cultures or different languages? And what was the plan to fund that? Because what if something else comes up in future and then you're in the same position as you are in, having to set another precedent? And for me, that makes me want to ask, like, what's the planning around expanding Eden and getting funding so that you're never really in this position again, you know? So yeah, that's really what I picked out from everything you said.
I can give you some context, Michael. It sounds like maybe you're somewhat more new to Eden, maybe. Is that right? You haven't been around since the very beginning?
Actually, no, I'm not new, Chris. I've been around the Telegram group for since a long time ago. So I don't know what you mean by being new to Eden. So I kind of understand Eden. So okay. I don't know what you mean by being new to Eden.
Fair enough. Yeah, okay. I can. Well, so when Eden was first proposed by Dan, it was basically his initial proposal. The idea was that Eden, there would be multiple Edens. It's why there was the peace treaty. So initially there was a peace treaty that was the underlying document that all Eden members were to adhere to, but it was also a document that the other Edens would adhere to. So it became this sort of underlying foundational agreement between different communities that they had a base set of rules that they would all follow, and that would be the sort of the underpinning of how they would work together. So there was supposed to be other Edens to answer that question, and then the funding was supposed to come directly from inflation, according to Dan. In his dream of creating Eden is that it would be funded directly from the network through inflation, and then it would distribute that inflation through the election process to different delegates to receive funding to do what they're going to do. So those were the two pieces. It was network inflation to fund Eden, and there was definitely supposed to be multiple Edens. So that was the plan. It's obviously not the case today. So how are we going to fund Eden into perpetuity? It's a great question. Some still might think that the ENF should be more deliberately and explicitly funding this work, and then they would fund the global Edens. It would be something that would be shared, and maybe it would be prorated based on the number of election participants or some sort of calculation. But that was always the plan. And so far, we haven't really seen that type of deliberate action from the ENF up to now. So maybe they still can. So that's something we can pursue. And there's also an opportunity, as we've seen now from B1, maybe there's an appetite for external parties that don't have to be B1, but could be, to continually fund this, not only this Eden, but all the Edens. So there's a few opportunities there that I think we can still pursue. It's part of why my language and rhetoric around B1 is attempting to be collaborative, because I see an opportunity still that they can do more. And but that's an uphill battle, as you've seen.
Yeah, so I understand. And I think you exactly answered my question, because what I got out of it is that there is really no, apart from the 500K that you have from B1 right now, you don't have, and maybe from the extra funding that was left over from the last maybe 2 elections, you really don't have a concrete idea of where you're going to get your next round of funding. And the reason I think this is relevant for the conversation you're having now is because your proposal only solves the short-term problem. It doesn't really address the underlying problem, which is that on your roadmap, you don't really have some certainty of funding. So even any plans that you make to expand the Eden concept into other languages, it still has this systemic risk of not having funds in the treasury. And I can see where that's coming from, is because the assumption was inbuilt into Eden as getting funded from inflation. And I think I saw this discussion on the Telegram group. So I'm curious, maybe, what are your thoughts on that? Because for me, that seems like a big risk on the whole project. And I don't mean to fault the efforts of everyone who perhaps has a more optimistic future in mind, and hence put in the effort to work towards that future. But you asked us what are our thoughts on it, so I'm just exploring that. So curious about that, Chris. What does the long term look like for funding Eden? Maybe the medium term to long term. Yeah.
I think your questions are great, Michael. So I really appreciate it. So thank you. And what I think, so here, there's two things. We have heard from, so the ENF has a single figurehead, Yves, and he has said time and again that he, as a representative of the network, so I guess as a proxy of all the VPs, are willing to support Eden. However, membership is low, we need to use the money we have, and engagement is low. So there's hopefully an argument that we can put forward a proposal to Yves. We want to put forward an MSIG at the end before our term is up to the ENF and therefore the block producers to fund quote unquote Eden. So we're going to attempt to see if they'll play ball. And maybe we put some pieces in there in that MSIG that are sort of this idea that we want this to be a global thing. We don't want it to be just exclusionary to the English community, and we want to increase adoption and participation. Like the things that we're saying we're not doing, we want to do. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, you mentioned that you're not caught up on the Telegram chat. Yves did respond. He does not support. I mean, what he exactly said was he believes that the proposal has, quote, questionable intent. And he was, it was clear that his sentiment was not supporting. But I still think that we should put something on chain just to get it official. But yeah.
Which part? Because there's two pieces, right? There's the kind of shaping how Eden works, and then there's the starting of the other Edens. Did he specify?
So I was DMing, he was referencing a particular DM conversation that I had where I said that, yes, we believe there's widespread support and we want to do a poll later. And I mean, you can read the message, but there was a bit of a miscommunication that I wasn't claiming that we have data. But so the one of the contentions is in the message, it says that there's widespread support of funding the languages. This is what I have seen. I think this is what you have seen in the other current CDs, but we don't have quantitative data to back that support. And then, so I think Yves was referencing that particular conversation that I had. And then he also mentioned that the multi pronged message, there was 4 points in there. And he also encapsulated that as a questionable intent. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of an allegation, questioning our intent. I wonder what that means. Like we have nefarious intent as a group of 5 CDs. And I don't know what could be questionable about the intent of starting other Edens. Like if we're just going to dial in on one particular point, how is that what's the questionable intent there? I think the main thing
is just pulling from the treasury. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, fair enough. So, I mean, my intention is to start other Edens, right? I want to see this thing grow. been here consistent the entire time I've been involved in Eden. So that's my intent. And I'm pretty sure that their other 4 CDs have the very similar viewpoint. There's no self-serving nature. In fact, all of the current CDs are in the English community. So by starting other Edens, it doesn't benefit. Maybe Javier, he's Spanish, so maybe he joined the Spanish one. But and also the idea, the other questionable intent piece maybe is that we're going to fund only Edenia to do all this work. So they get this big lump sum of cash, and that's self-dealing. If we want to talk about self-dealing, there's some other examples that are questionable, but we don't need to. So, but we didn't have that as being there. It's open to any of the, I would like to fund Sangyong and his developers to do the Korean Eden. I think we should do the same for the Chinese, and we should decentralize those who run this operational aspect in the infrastructure. Maybe Edenia could do the Spanish one because that does make a lot of sense, but it should still be open to RFPs. I think anytime we use public funding, I would love to see the ENF do this as well, is anytime you use public funding, it should be done through an RFP process and not through no bid contracts. I've said it a few times in chat, and I think that's just a generally ethical way to approach funding things from public goods or from public funding. Anyway, yeah, so I'm not going to push this too hard. I think we've made our point. If people like Yves and others want to push back and say, no, don't start the other Edens, okay. But
we should do a poll, Chris.
Opportunity.
We should do a poll. But but let's hear from Dan. Let's hear from Patrick and Mo.
Okay. Well, I want to hear Patrick. Thanks. And Mo, first I'll just say just one thing that came to mind. I'm also like 200 messages behind in the Eden members chat too. But just saying questionable intent doesn't necessarily question the, I don't know, good faith, or you mentioned nefarious or misaligned interests as like potential implications of that, Chris, but it could also just be like, just learning about the proposal early and just questioning how it can work and so forth. So it's not necessarily that he's assuming it's a bad.
I didn't read it.
Okay, yeah,
fair enough. I know when generally in my mind, when someone says you have questionable intent, it tends to be a negative kind of position, but perhaps I'm misreading the context, so I need to get caught up.
Okay, right, yeah, sounds good. I agree. Cool. Yeah, so I have some thoughts. I know Patrick was trying to get his microphone set up. Are you able to speak with us now, Patrick, and share your thoughts?
Yeah. So hello everyone. Hello Jesse, hello Chris, hello Dan, hello Sangyong, hello everyone. First of all, I have a lot of respect for all what you are doing. So it's a little confused for me because I am following so closely the things. So maybe my opinion will be not so objective. I am already biased a little bit. And today into the Telegram, I was answering honestly, as always, as I can, without to be for someone in particular. It's not about the people, it's about the IDs and the information. So for what I see as data and information that I have received now about your recent discussion on the Eden calls meeting, the last one, it seems to be, for me, the main concern is you discuss between you, that's fine. You want to iterate fast, that's fine. All is perfect. You do the things very rapid. We love that. You take action. On the other side, I was thinking, wow, the approach seems to be a little bit already predefined. That's the general sentiment that some people have into the Telegram chat, me included. The approach is a little bit, let's say, a guerrilla approach, but don't take wrong. I love what you are doing. And I was thinking, I was messaging Jesse about that. We discussed into the Telegram. You should do a poll now and ask about the community, about their opinion, because it seems to be that it is an opinion between you, the CDs, and what about the rest of the community? That's my concern here, since not just this term, that was already a concern on other term. I was thinking sometimes there is the delegates, and what about the rest of the community? And when there are decision, or let's say turn like this, it's a shift. And I think your intent is good, no matter about that, because personally, I love to be in contact with Jesse. We are collaborating. So I mean, Jesse has good intent, like a good bee, and Chris also. So I cannot imagine that you have a, let's say, nefarious intent or something like that. But for me, it's Irish on the cake to do the things on chain. Before, that's the testifying of the intent that matters. So I will see very open if we see a poll and we can all participate to the debate, because we are not able to participate to the debate. There is a call with the cities, the 5, and then the delegate level 1 as myself, for example. I was not joining, there was a possibility to join a call to be with you. I remember I was not able. But when there are this discussion like that, like today, that will be great to see the rest of the community implicated. That's my only concern on that. I am not at the base layer of your brainstorming. You are brainstorming a lot to arrive to a decision like this for the good of the community, seems to be. So as I have not participated to all this brainstorming, I am not the right one to say if it is good or bad. I would just say we need to balance a little bit. I understand why Yves Larose answered like this also, because he see that the things are, it seems to be that you have a perception, Jesse, of the current crowd, and you have stated, I have a good perception, and I answered you, but it's not about your intuition, it's about some stats. And you said, but that's what exactly we do now. We want to do a poll. But it seems to be that is coming when we are raising the fact, and that.
No, if you watch the CD call, we talked about doing a poll before we got the feedback.
Okay.
If you watched the last CD
Okay.
call.
Okay, so that's my only concern, is that make a poll. Let's the people of the community also be implied. Like this, no one could say after that they were not implied, because you have always criticism coming after. We were never aware. We were never. Exactly. You have always complainers. Seems to be that the EOS community is a perfect professional complainers. That's not from me. That's from my fellow Maurice Vanegas, stating that we are sometimes named professionally complainer, and I have to admit it's not so false. So anyway, that's my cold talk of 1 hour 30 or something like that I am into this Telegram, and was joining now because I want to give you a lot of respect here for all the work that you are doing. So that's not easy to be a chief delegate, and certainly not a head chief delegate. So very respectful for that.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, Patrick. Would you like to respond to that, Jesse or Chris, or would anybody else like to add on to that?
Yeah, I think your points are great, Patrick. So thank you. And you do follow us so closely. So people who are as tuned in as you are, I think your opinions kind of matter more to me, if that's fair to say, just because you're so tied to it. Everyone's opinion matters, but when people who are really dialed in, I think because you know all of the context. So thank you. I think a poll is a great idea to get the temperature of the room. And we did propose a lot. Like I think any of us chief, I've certainly realized that what we were putting forward would be a risk, and it wouldn't come across without some back and forth. So that's good. But this is how we got to float trial balloons out there just to see, right? This is how we make change, and this is how we do things. And the other big trial balloon is completely changing what Eden's purpose is. Like that's to me the far bigger piece of this. And if anything, I think that's if we maybe focus more on that, by changing the purpose of Eden, bylawing that up, that does then provide the opportunity to fund the other Edens. So maybe that's maybe the more kind of long-term impactful conversation to have. And so to that, just to, did you guys get all that part too, Patrick and Dan? Like, did you guys know, I don't want to change the subject yet. Maybe we keep it on this because Dan, you haven't spoken yet.
Yeah, but I'm a little bit confused. Could you just clarify what you're saying there about the part two? You're talking about the two different, like, kind of, it's kind of two different proposals in a way. One is changing the way that the funding works, essentially, in that it kind of goes more to like the less to individual CDs and more to a controlled account from the CDs. And then there's also the idea of funding Edens in Korea and China and elsewhere. So are you saying those are the two different things, or am I misconfused?
No, it is confusing. So yeah, it's so the other thing entirely outside of funding other Edens is changing the purpose of what we're trying to do here and why we're selecting individuals to become chief delegates. So there's been this kind of dichotomy between selecting people with a project to fund, which is very much what happened at the beginning, right? Eden was the only source of funds initially. There was no Pomelo, there was no ENF grants. So this was a worker proposal system explicitly. And we saw that because we saw, say, John Williamson, he ran on Violet Garden, right? Jesse, you've run on the bees. And so there was this like, and Aaron Cox ran on Grey Mass. Like I did not run on a project. So there's been this, are you running to select people you trust who will use the money in some way that is beneficial for the community because we trust them that they'll do good things? Or are you voting for someone because they've got a great project and I want to give them some funding so they can work on their project? Those are very different things. Selecting people to have positions for governance, for example, versus selecting people for their project. So what we're proposing is to start, now that we have these other funding sources, Pomelo, ENF grants, to no longer treat this current Eden as, because you could still use the process, the tool as a worker proposal system. That's not to say it can't be done like that, but this current one, let's shift it so that now you're deliberately selecting leaders or board members, essentially, to be chief delegates. And what you do then is you lower the funding distribution way back down to like 5 or even less %. And the money that people get is like a salary. It's deliberately a salary. So I'm going to run as a chief delegate now because I'm going to spend 5 hours a week focused on governance and focused on the other piece I'll get into, which is funding the circles. So now it's creating more of a traditional organizational structure. This is Reiki's, like he's got many years of working with Haifa, and this is kind of how they do, they're suggesting that they do that sometimes, where you have different circles that perform functions and they need funding. And the board or the chief delegates, they are the ones who then hand funding to the circles. So now we run into an election for less money, but it's your pay. So you're now getting paid to do your job. And some people don't have to keep their pay. I could run and say, okay, I get paid by Helios. I don't need to be paid to be a chief delegate. I'll still give my money to projects on Pomelo or whatever. Like that doesn't mean you have to do that, but that's the intention. Is you're running, it's more of a job. The distribution, the draw rate goes way down, and then you have this pot of money in the treasury, and it then funds a media circle to do advertising. It funds a expansion circle to fund other Edens. It funds like we've got if we do dispute resolution and we maybe provide other services like MSIG as a service or anything like that, those become circles that Eden provides. And it's funded from the treasury, but controlled by the chief delegates. So it's very different. It changes everything. So Jesse, for the bees, is a great example, may not want to be a chief delegate. He wants to make the bees a successful organization. So he becomes a member of the comms circle. Same with yourself, Dan. You're creating content. Same with yourself, Patrick. So there's a circle that does this function, and you need to get paid to do that. So then you submit proposals to the chief delegates transparently and publicly, like they all should be. And then the chief delegates decide to give money from the treasury with certain thresholds and milestones and gated. And like we have to work that out, that then fund the comm circle to pay the bees, to pay the Nova Cryptos, right? And so it's a different strategy, and it's using this more now to select leaders. So that's the brand new other radical shift from what we have today.
Well, that's the same. It's like the same as the first point, that if we give chief delegates, or propose to give the chief delegates explicit authority to move funds into an OpEx, then yeah, they can use that to fund other circles. I just don't want it to be confusing. I think it's just two main things. What Chris was saying is a elaboration of the vision of, so Chris is like taking a step forward. We're just proposing a new expectation structure that CDs can move funds from the treasury into OpEx to then fund circles and get proposals from other projects to fund other projects. And then the other thing is the language. I just wanted to clear that up. I thought it was a little bit confusing. myself.
Thank you, Jesse, for the clarification, and thank you also, Chris, for the clarification explanation too, and the overview of the thought process too. So it's very interesting, and I see Patrick has hands up too, so I want to hear what Patrick thinks. I want to just make a comment too that I appreciate everyone's thought here, and it's very interesting and exciting for Eden. It's demonstrating fractal governance and hearing all these different perspectives. So like just word of appreciation. I know Michael had to go too, I guess, but I appreciate Michael's thoughts too, and I see Mo has hands up too. So it's great to see discourse, and I have several notes written out that I'm looking forward to sharing. But for now, I'll pass it on to Patrick and then Mo.
I want to address something here. I think it's necessary to address, at least for me. I hope you will agree with that. There is, at the moment with Eden, there is a discussion going on. You are aware all of that. We have the last Yves fireside chat this Wednesday, and they were questioning about the funds of Block 1 and if maybe Helios was utilized into this. That's incredible, because on the same day I was watching the beautiful video of Brock Pierce and Chris Barnes here. I was watching this, I was publishing it, I was very happy to see that. I was very like a yeah baby moment when I was hearing all that we have to do all the best with all our art for this ecosystem, and I was totally aligned. That was a beautiful moment. One of those moments that you cannot explain, where you feel you align. And then I was going into this EOS fireside chat, and I was hearing some questioning by Trimbot, and Waxa was also joining and answering. And that's like if there is a war between who has funded who, and in particular when it is Block 1, what a shame. They have given 500,000. Oh my God. So I was like, why so much questioning? Why not go to the table of the wisdom and try to be the best people together and strive this Eden on EOS, and EOS, by the way, EOS, and all this beautiful ideology, everyone open society, the best community that we are with people, humans, interoperability between humans, not only between smart contracts and all. And why not to invite Yves Larose at the table of Christmas and give him a little gift, and let's say everyone together. Why so much unity here? I was very sad on this EOS fireside chat, the last one. There was too much discussion going on, maybe a lot of speculation also, because the people speaking are not involved into the discussion between Helios and Block 1. We don't know anything, so the people that don't know anything, maybe they should maybe not say anything. That's better. So I don't know for you, but for me, as a OG here, and not only me, Jesse, Chris, Sangyong, Mo, Dancing Joy, and where is Pat Novajoy? Oh, Pat Novajoy is here. He's very happy. So I don't know for you, but we are near Christmas, and we have all on the table to do something great, and we are just sometimes pushing our own things on ENF on one side, Helios on the other side. Now Block 1 coming back, and some people stating maybe that Block 1 is coming back just to show to the community, hey guys, we are doing something. I don't know for you, but I think the most suitable guy to discuss about that is Chris here, because he is in contact. He was in contact, so I think he could maybe let know the people what is going on. And with all your honesty, I trust you, if trust means something.
because trust is about reliability, testify the intent. First testify the intent, then check. So I have checked Chris a lot of time, and if he's not committed, I am ready to go and finding for him and killing him. No, it's a joke. So Chris, can you maybe, I see Dan watching to the sky, but Dan, it's good to have the balls and ask the right questions and not go to the around the pot during 2 hours. So I ask the things here. I have the balls, and Chris also have the balls, and that's why they were coming into the cities with this last, let's say, pre-decision, because we have to move on. We cannot always ask everyone, "Are you agreeing? Are you agreeing?" But we will have a poll for sure. But Chris, can you please answer to my question? Yeah.
I will give you, but I think we should go to Mo first, just because it will be probably, this is like a different topic, but absolutely, let's let Mo go and I will come back and give you some more details.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. First, let me thank you guys for putting this together right now, because the first thing that I was thinking about was, as I was skimming through the chat, was it would be great for everybody to just get on the microphone and discuss this vocally, because I think there are a lot of questions. This is my preliminary impression of the proposal, because I kind of skimmed through it, didn't really get a chance to meditate a lot on it. So let me just say, first of all, I'm very supportive of the language Edens. That's something that needs to happen. That's a good idea. The thing about it, though, is that I feel like it's kind of rushed. The motion of going through everything. I kind of feel like there needs to be some sort of proposal with a budget that delineates what the process is going to be in a better way, so that everyone gets a more fixed idea of how this would be, of how it would work and how it would move forward. Just stating a number and saying we're going to do this, I think a lot of people question it and see it a bit as a too opaque, let's say it that way. Even though there is trust in all of you guys, there's just not enough information for all of the people that are not as involved and might not know exactly how it's all going to develop and how it's all going to play out. So I would suggest taking a step back, slowing down the movement, and putting together a budget of exactly how these Edens would be funded and how they would be launched. Because based on Yves' comments regarding the communications that he's had with the Korean Eden and the Chinese Eden, and how they ended up fizzling out, I'd kind of like to see. I'm not aware of my knowledge of their progress is very little, admittedly. So I'd like to know more about where they're at, what kind of structure they have, and then as well, that's another thing that kind of is also on my mind, that I feel like we still don't have a culture within our own Eden. We still don't know exactly what we're here for, what we're trying to do. I've made this point several times, discussing the fact that, are we Eden or are we Eden on EOS? Are our best intentions to try to help EOS or to try to help and launch Eden? I feel like the community is largely confused about this, and my personal view is that we're Eden on EOS, doing the best we can for EOS, and we're jumpstarting Eden, the global Eden, the bigger project, off of what is going to become a part of it. A smaller Eden within the bigger Eden is the Eden on EOS, not the bigger whole. So these language Edens, I don't know if they're going to be also directed at trying to do what's best for EOS, or trying to do what's best for their countries, or trying to do what's best for I don't know, whatever other ideas they have in mind. But I'd like to get those kind of things settled, so that everyone understands what the structure of Eden is. In my view, if we were to launch these other Edens, they would be Eden on EOS in their languages. So all of us would be working towards the best, what we have at our best intentions for EOS. That would be the goal of all of these language Edens. I don't know if that's how they feel about it. It would be worth also having these discussions with their chief delegates, having their chief delegates get together with our chief delegates and or their head chief delegates even at that point, because essentially that's what would end up happening. We would again find a reason to have a head chief delegate who would unite in meetings with their head chief delegates and come to consensuses regarding what's best for EOS and how to work together towards EOS. Now, I feel like having the bigger treasury and being the first one to launch is the reason why Eden on EOS has kind of taken on the responsibility of creating the larger Eden, where all of these other Edens will be launched that have nothing to do with EOS, to help the world, to restructure the world. Now, that's a whole nother goal, but these kind of things need to get straightened out before we're launching other Edens. I have no issue with EOS Respect, for example, the way that they've launched, because they've forked the code, they've done their own thing. That's fine, but I kind of expect and hope that we can move towards a point where we're also involving them in the larger Eden, because if they're using the Eden code and they're going to be functioning as an Eden, they might be interested in coming back into the fold, per se. That's, I think, what I have to say regarding the launch of other Edens and the language Edens. So I would suggest getting, in summary, getting a budget together, a proposal, and a some sort of timeline of how things will be launched and what are the checkpoints and what kind of progress we would like to see from the other Edens before moving towards extracting a budget out of the treasury and making everyone feel like there's something that's not legitimate going on. On the part of changing the intent of how Eden works from a WPS to something else, a governance directed institution, which is kind of what I've always felt that Eden was supposed to be. So I'm 110% with that. I'd like to discuss it further and keep moving in that direction. I think that's all I have to say about that. So thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Mo. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts, and you make a lot of great points, and I agree very much with a lot of what you're saying. I saw Sangyong has hands up too, so I don't know if it's still up now, but I'd like to pass on to Sangyong in a moment, because one of the things you mentioned about communicating with leaders from Eden Korea and Eden China and so forth, and planning these out and budgeting these out. Great start. If Sangyong is interested in responding, as he's from the Eden Korean community, it'd be great to hear his thoughts about this. And I agree, collaborating and communicating more with the other Edens would be great, as this is actually the first time that, or I mean, I've spoken with Han because I used to serve as a chief delegate with Han, but other than that, I've never spoken to people from Eden Korea or Eden China, I don't think. So definitely communicating more is helpful. And I think Mo also mentioned that communicating, planning more, and taking a step back and taking it slower. I agree with that too. There's a great thinker, Balaji Srinivasan, who talks about 51% democracies and 99% democracies, how current democracies, as people call them, don't really represent the majority of the people, or it's 51% that constantly switches, and we want to get as close to 99% as possible, or at least a much greater amount of consensus. So having better communication is helpful. Also, better tooling, better consensus measuring tools. Like I know we have consortium and EOS authority polls. Patrick asked a question about Chris about polling, I think, that I still want to hear from after we hear from Sangyong maybe, or depending on the order we want to go. And then, yeah, I also want to just briefly voice my stance here too, just to share. So I do have a lot of concerns about this proposal as well. I'm glad, like Patrick mentioned, diversity or like diversion, but that can also be like diversity of thoughts. So I'm glad that we have lots of people sharing different ideas, and I think it's bold and interesting how the chief delegates put this together. Now it sparked a lot of discussion, so I'm happy to be discussing it. But yeah, there's several things that I'd want to think about before considering to support this. I know James Mart also made some great points as well. But yeah, in general, having these discussions is really helpful, and then better consensus measuring tools is a way that Eden can lead and pioneer. But yeah, I'll get into more details about potential concerns or questions that I have about these proposals a little later. And for now, I'd like to know if Sangyong would like to respond to what Mo was saying, or if Patrick, maybe you'd like to reiterate the question that you were asking Chris before.
Dan, if you could, I have to go soon. I'd really love to hear your thoughts, Dan.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, so I'm definitely in support of supporting different languages communities, but I'm not sure if this is a good way to do it. I mentioned some general thoughts about communicating more and taking things slower and making polls. So I think that a general meta observation and meta like guidance that we should do just communicating and polling better. I think James Mart, he made some great points. I'm also just trying to form my opinion about a lot of these things too, because it's fairly fresh and I'm a couple hundred messages behind right now. But I saw just an hour ago or 2 hours ago, James Mart wrote that to the extent that the OpEx should exist, it should be funded voluntarily. He made a couple other good points that I won't read here, but I think at some point it'd be good to read these because James Mart is a really smart thinker, and I tend to agree with a lot of the stuff he's talking about here. So I can go more into those. Some other things I wrote too. In your message, Jesse, in the Eden members chat, you wrote, we plan to propose a new bylaw that stipulates expectations on how CD should administer funds from the account. And I'm not sure about that in general. Like, I think that, people talk about how it's best not to put expectations or too much like guidance or structure on how CDs should act. Like, it's best that CDs can use their own judgment, I think, and also stipulating expectations. I don't know, it also gets a little bit messy too, because I don't know, some people might see it differently, want to do a different thing. I can go into that in more detail. You mentioned before, Jesse, that there's widespread agreement that there's a lack of participation in elections. I don't agree with that personally. I mean, I want to grow it, but at this point, I mean, a community with 70 people who are working together, who many people are very committed. I don't know, there's lots of companies out there, or lots of groups or communities out there that have 70 people who are really committed, who are doing great things in the world. And I don't think that there's an urgency to growing that like as fast as possible. I think it'll grow a lot, and it needs to grow a lot over the months and years, but I don't see that as like a definite reason that this needs to be done. You mentioned about the unclaimed funds. As far as I heard or saw in the last graphic, it was only like 5%. So I don't see that as a reason. I'm not sure how you mentioned that's related. I'm concerned about potential legal implications here too. So Dan Larimer wrote that article, What is the Legal Standing of a DAO, a while ago. So I'd be curious if the chief delegates have read that and have thought about potential legal implications of this kind of move. And then, yeah, the intention of the bylaws too, Chris mentioned that maybe it should be where there does need to be a several month or like the following the bylaw process of one chief delegate term or group proposing to the next chief delegate. And there is that intention, like that's there for a reason. And if you start allocating funds just as it is, then it kind of blows past that intention of the bylaw process. And I think that is a valuable process to make sure that there's more widespread consensus before things can change, both in this term and then the future for precedents. And then, yeah, it also just makes it more complex in general, I think. And I like the simplicity and the elegance of the current system. So that's kind of a high-level overview of some of the concerns I have about it. I'm happy to go into any more of those in detail, but and there's a lot more I could speak to it. I was also writing an article because this was a similar discussion we had back in term 3 when I was a chief delegate, and I started writing an article with several reasons. There's quite a long article that I've never really shared, I don't think, but it's still out there about reasons why I didn't think it was a good idea to for chief delegates to pull directly from the treasury. I'm open to potentially changing my mind here. These are not things that I'm, 100% like vindictive or sure about as the way to go. But from what I see, like I definitely wouldn't have supported that if I was on the chief delegate call. I would have voiced my opinion about why I don't think that it's a good idea for this reason, that reason. Open to change my mind, and I think it's a interesting proposal in many ways, and I can see how it can be very helpful, like to be supporting the community sooner. And Chris also made some good points that most of the funding is coming from Block 1 right now. So things are different, but generally speaking, that's an overview of why I have some concerns about this, and I'm interested to hear thoughts about it. And Patrick,
one thing's interesting. Oh, okay, I'll go quick, Patrick, since I was quicker to my mute button. And then I'll answer your question since I'm talking. So the one thing that I totally agree is that and to James's point, right? Like this current Eden has a certain set of rules that we've just come to expect and understand, and and we're making a big deviation, eyes wide open. This is a big change to suggest that what I explained, where the Eden members are now going to participate in an election for a governance position to receive a salary or a stipend for that role, more like a traditional board. And then they use this pot, this treasury, and they've been elected into a place of trust by the community to then use that pot at their discretion for the benefit of the community. L1 delegates can always call, like they have the ability to use 2/3+1 to call a snap election if they see abuse. And so I think there's something there. But maybe what this means is another version of Eden. Like this is like, I think there should be more Edens also, like, and they don't have to have the same purpose. So an Eden Phoenix has said many times that he would love to see an Eden that's specifically around developers coming together and building projects. You have an election, developers work their way up, and then they have one particular goal they want to focus on. And they just, and they have some funding to do that, and they're paid, and they build a DApp or they do whatever. And that's a use case of Eden. Eden's been used as a tool to give money to, there was a church in Venezuela. I gave them $1,000. They ran an election process to decide who in their community should take that $1,000 and spend it for the benefit of their community. That's another use case of the tool. It's very different than what we're doing, but still a valid use case. So maybe the answer here is we don't want to create division within our own community. Maybe we start another Eden. And with that, we start another Chinese, Korean, Spanish Eden. And they all have a peace treaty and they're working together. This will make more sense in terms of a line of thinking when you read the Eden Smart Proxy light paper that's going to come out very soon. And it describes the use case of having multiple Edens collaborating to help run this proxy. So that's another, I mean, that's in the back. I mean, that's one of my intentions, is that I want these other Edens, is because I want to see this proxy be successful. And that's for the benefit of the whole community. When you read that paper, there's a reason for that. And it's not forced, it's hopeful, and it's meant to bring people together. But maybe that means we need another English Eden that has a specific purpose, and it's not being muddied with the purpose of the current Eden. It's a perfectly valid, maybe, way to approach this. Patrick, to your questions that you asked me about Block 1, the conversations with Block 1 began in early July. So we approached B1 in early July to express the interest of wanting to work with them to see if they can find a way to support the network. That's when it began. Things were more basically formalized in terms of what that expression of support looks like by early August. Then we had contracts early August. So that whole August 22nd thing that Trimbot is using, and then there was a fund movement shortly thereafter. That was well before that was well after we had come to basically an agreement on what we're going to do. So it's coincidental. I can accept the coincidence of the timing, perhaps, and when they moved funds internally, which is kind of irrelevant. I mean, B1, they move funds all the time to different accounts. And I think if we look at their history, there's been all sorts, I mean, do we need to look at each one of them and figure out what happened on that date legally that led to the movement? It doesn't, I mean, there's circumstantial evidence here, but I don't think it's conclusive, as Trimbot has agreed to. It is circumstance and speculation. So yeah, so that was it. It was early July when things started. Things became very firm in early August. And then we took a lot of time, and it was Helios, in fact, that delayed. This donation would have happened far, far earlier. And it was an internal decision at Helios to delay things, just really due to contract review. I mean, it was a contract with Block 1 and Helios to help them facilitate this, and what liability and risk is Helios assuming. That took them some time to work through. And if anything, B1 could have said, hey, this is taking too long, too bad. But they were patient, and they were committed to what they wanted to do. And the timing worked out that the funding came as it did, which happened to be prior to the last distribution. It wasn't some grand plan to just, this is the date and we figured this all out, and it's not some nefarious thing. It's just, this is what happened. This is how it laid out. And but to your question, it all began in early July.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for answering that, Chris. I see Sangyong has hands up, so I want to hear from Sangyong in a moment. But I just want to add on to what Chris was saying first about doing it with a different Eden. We're starting up a new Eden. I think that's a good idea. And I feel like maybe perhaps I was a little bit too open to the idea too, because I feel like Eden is like, we really need to protect it and make sure that it works well. And so I feel like this proposal as it currently stands puts Eden at a lot of risk. So I mentioned lots of concerns, and those concerns I mean, it's my first time thinking about it right now, so I want to be open to different ideas, but those are some pretty big concerns. And so I think that the idea of starting a different Eden that I can accomplish these and work in a different way, that sounds like a really attractive idea for exploring right now. And yeah, I'm looking forward to exploring that more. And thank you for also suggesting that, Chris. And I'll pass on to Sangyong now.
All right, thank you, Dan, and thank you for your great comment, Dan and Chris. And yeah, and may I make a few comments before I go? I think I have to go soon, though. Is it okay? First of all, I want to say it's really good to talk to you here in this, join the Zoom call, even if I'm a city or a delegate in the Global Eden. Hey. And I want to say thank you for your great offer for the funding of the language communities, which is in China and in Korea, which is big money and is definitely going to help us. But regardless of that, I can't, like, please understand that I can't really say that. And oh my God, it's really big money. Thank you. I will accept that. You know what I mean? Because I'm not very sure that we are ready to get that big money, because we didn't have that, even the treasury account yet. We're still launching and we're still preparing. Maybe definitely not in short term, maybe later on. And basically, I want to say my words as much as possible, but like I have to talk about that, like need to time to think about we can get that or not, you know, like the money is just not like just money. The money means that also responsibility and accountability we have, which is the community funds, so we have to use that in a proper way and we need to make a concrete result. So like so yeah, that's basically it. That's what I wanted to make the comment. Yeah.
I just want to say one thing that popped into my head that I think is kind of interesting when we think about starting other Edens, and that is Dan started the current Eden with the promise that he was going to basically be reimbursed by the network for his efforts. And he was reimbursed to the tune of $600,000 to write the code to kick off the Eden.
Yeah.
So why not have the same promise for the other Edens? Don't fund their treasury. Fund the treasury and reimburse the teams that are doing the work. That would be a great commitment to see from the network. And it would show a great sign of faith that you're not just expecting a bunch of people to do a bunch of free work to then just fund a treasury that apparently they can't touch, right? So why not reimburse the teams? I think that'd be a great counter proposal, Sangyong, that maybe we should try to work on.
I mean, like, definitely I want to appreciate that your offer and your propose is really, I want to appreciate it. As I said, like I said, I'm not very sure that we're ready to get those funds. I just said that we don't have the treasury account yet. So like, you know what I mean? And we're getting funds from the Pomelo. So, which is it.
Good point. Yeah.
Yep, great.
Thank you, Sangyong.
I want to say yes, but I really can't represent all of the Eden Korea community. So please understand. Thank you.
Thank you to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sangyong. And once again, really appreciate you joining us, and hope to see you in future town halls as well. It's really great to hear from your thoughts, and it's really great to see these discussions happening between Eden communities around the world as well.
I'm glad that I can talk and communicate in here, and I'll try to communicate more with the global Eden communities and share the thoughts on how it's going.
Well, thank you so much, and looking forward to hearing more of your thoughts and discussing with you. And I see Mo has hands up too. We've also just, by the way, been going for almost an hour and a half. So this is a very interesting discussion. We could talk for a much longer time. I'm open to talk for longer, but also just want to just make a note of that in case people want to go soon, want to be respectful of his time. But I see it looks like maybe Patrick wants to say something and Mo has their hands up. So do you want to share anything real quick, Patrick, before Mo goes, or should we pass on to Mo now?
Absolutely. you read my mind. That's good. I just want to say, in the last mission statement of Eden, there came to the conclusion with Waxa, Reiki, and Chris and Jesse. There are not only one mission statement for Eden. There are many mission statements. That's good for the marketing, by the way. But if there is one mission statement that could be the, let's say, the hat of all mission statement, that's this one. To help communities of verified humans wherever they are. So you include the languages when you say that, wherever they are, build their own version of Eden, because by building their own version of Eden, they will define the why. That's the DAO that is defining the why. So they will build their own version of Eden, whatever that may be, together, powered by EOS with an internested fractal paradigm through collaborative circles. That's exactly that. There is no answer now. I comment that for Mo. You will you share your hand now, but before you were stating, I want to see a purpose for Eden. Are we solving Eden or are we solving Eden on EOS? I would say we are totally agnostic. We are defining a sandbox and to play in it, to have the best gamification, to learn to earn, and networking to earn, and all this stuff. Then it is up to each Eden to define its why. And that's why I think this mission statement is so, at least, clear and for the next delegates, because they have the openness to do what they want to do. And I agree with Dan. We have to be the most simple when we are doing the things, not too much friction. And for the next delegates, they will go in a good direction if we don't come with too much complexity. So that's what I want to say. So thank you. And Mo, yeah, happy to hear you.
Thanks, Patrick. Mo?
First, I just wanted to thank Sangyong for his time and for expressing the degree of responsibility that he's expressed in regards to the funding. It takes someone with a high level of understanding of what that entails to reject money outright, even if he's not speaking in the name of all of his community. It still shows that he's a very responsible person, in my view. And I appreciate Patrick speaking to what I was commenting on in my previous comments regarding the direction and the purpose of Eden. But it still goes to more so to the reason of why we need to get our culture straight and our purpose straight before starting other Edens. If we're about to change, possibly, or may not, we don't know how it's going to go, but if we're about to change the way that we function to a governance directed form of or Eden with a purpose towards governance, I'm afraid that all of the other Edens haven't caught up to that yet, which is most likely the case, unless they're going to function in a whole different way. And in that case, why would we be supporting them if we still don't know what their purposes are with money from the treasury, and what kind of amounts are we going to be funding them with, for what kind of projects? All of these questions need to be answered before we even start discussing moving forward with that. I mean, as an idea of starting other Edens within other language Edens, I'm 110% with that. I've already said I support it entirely, and I think it's in the direction that Eden on EOS should be moving towards. We need to have that happen. We need their input. They are a large segment of the EOS community that is not engaging in or having their voices heard in the larger community, or maybe they are, and we're just not aware. I mean, Joe Louis has stated a few times that he reads the Chinese chat and puts it in, or the Korean channels, and translates what their comments are. So he's a little bit more in tune to where their positions are. I think I can honestly say that in the English community, very few people know what's going on in those other communities and how they feel towards Dan, Block One, and many other key points. So I think that having those different language Edens is very important. It'll give us more legitimacy when we speak and say that we represent the EOS community. And that's solely directed at the Eden on EOS. The Edens that have EOS as their key constituents and to who they feel they owe their work. Eden on EOS, if that's now going to also launch Eden, to what Patrick's comments were in regards to the mission statements, that's great. That's something that I think that is also something that we can justify as something that will contribute to EOS. So I think that's something that Eden on EOS can do and should do. But we need to have our culture straight first, and we need to know who we are first before we start launching other things that we don't know what or how they will integrate with us. I think that's what I have to say about that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of sense. Thank you, Mo. Appreciate you. Love you. Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's a point that we address also into Eden Fractal. Also, we have to go stone after stone, one stone after other stone, and do the next stone when we are finished with the previous stone. So that's why I understand very well more of what we stating here.
I think
we have to know the things. We have to know the things.
Yeah, well, you make a really, really good point, Mo, about if we fund these other Edens, what are they going to do and how are they going to operate? And this is where I think you're probably right. Like in the perfect world, okay. So for the Eden Smart Proxy, which is part of what I think that's a bigger piece of what I'm trying to see if we can make happen, is that these global Edens all come together with a united sort of vision as to what they're trying to accomplish. And it's governance as a focus for sure. Doesn't mean you can't have project funding as part of the process, as we've seen, but certainly governance is part of that. And I think what we need is a new peace treaty. So like if we're going to have multiple Edens work together, how do they do that? What's the process? What are the rules that they're agreeing to follow? Because we should have now a new peace treaty that we all then agree to, that doesn't prevent you from doing funding and running your program, but at least in the interrelation part, there should be a set of rules. And one of them, for example, is you can't have a member in more than one Eden, right? So then that's basically like a civil attack to this governance process. So if we had Edens collaborating, we shouldn't have members say for yourself, Sangyong, you speak great English. You could be in the English Eden, but then you shouldn't also be in the Korean. Or if you're in the Korean, you shouldn't be in the English. You'd have to pick one. That's something that would exist in a peace treaty. And a limit to the size of the Edens. And some of the things that Dan had in the initial peace treaty, I think we would want to launch Edens with that base set of rules that has a governance focus. And maybe that's a whole new thing. Like maybe that's just it, right? We don't do this. We don't try to shoehorn these ideas into current Edens. We start new ones. That might be a lot of Edens if we're going to have like multiple Edens for each. I don't know how that's going to look, but maybe that's what we have to consider.
Peace.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Good points, Chris. Well, yeah, there's a lot to explore here. And I don't know either, but I'm excited to explore it. And I see Mo maybe has a response there. Mo, do you want to respond to Chris's point there?
No, simply to agree with him. Yeah, I mean, I think that's where we're headed. More Edens are going to pop up. And that's why I think it's important that we need to have our structure down. We need to know what we're doing first before we start launching others. Once we know that, then we can at least give them a template to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it makes the most sense to stick with what has worked so far and experiment with new Edens too. Like I think there'll be many communities using this Eden process, and to me it makes the most sense to stick with what works as it's working and then iterate with new Edens and different forms, and then you can try it out with different ones, but without risking changing the thing that's already been proving to be super successful already. Some people have some questions about that or don't see how it's been successful, but I think that the way that Eden is working for the past year and a half, it's profoundly helpful, and it's created so much value already, and it will create much more. So that's also one of the reasons for my my resistance to change, because the system it's just, it's done so much in the past year and a half, and it can do so much more as it is. So I agree with what you're saying, Mo, that we should figure out what we're doing here first before branching out. But I also kind of don't agree with it totally, because I think that we should branch out, but I just think that we should maintain stability in the Eden that's already working, and then try out lots of new things with different Edens as well. So I'm in support of supporting Korean Eden and Chinese Eden now, like as soon as we can. I feel like if chief delegates want to use some of their funding, or delegates want to use some of their funding, or we can campaign and petition and make good proposals to the ENF or other organizations to help fund Eden Korea and other Edens now, then that's best, and we can iterate. I don't think we need to, solidify any changes with the first Eden first. So maybe I don't totally agree with what you're saying there, Mo, because I just thought of it in a different way. But I appreciate you sharing that thought, and I agree with parts of it, and interested to hear thoughts about that.
Yeah, Dan, I think we kind of do agree. I'm also not against starting other Edens or beginning the movement towards that. In terms of, for example, having a proposal, a budget, the structure of what the other Edens should look like, and start planning that out for them. And possibly having the way that our Eden currently works function. Whoever, for example, if Chris, who is I would say the biggest proponent, or has been spearheading the campaign for the other Edens currently. I mean, I support him totally as well, and I would probably run that as well. But I would say that all of the delegates, or all of the people that would like to run on that kind of a campaign, could run on that and take their budgets for the next season and give it 100 or 50% of it, I would say, because I think, or no, currently for the operational expenses, that's covered. So no, 100% of their budgets could go to starting new Edens, and just do it that way. So there's no real reason to rush it and say right now we're going to take 50% of the budget or 25% of the budget from the treasury and dedicate it to starting new Edens without having some sort of plan, a more detailed plan. Let's say it that way, having a much more detailed plan with a budget and structure and proposal.
Yeah, and the election coming up in 2 or 3 weeks now too can also provide a great opportunity, in addition to discussions like these and all the things that have been going on in the chats and the Yves fireside chat and all the discussions over the past week or so. The upcoming election can be a great way for people to voice their opinions and run on different platforms to fund the different Edens, and for different ways of going forward with Eden as well.
I think it would legitimize the use of funding a whole lot more if it was done via the elections versus taking a chunk out right now.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is just my preliminary thoughts on the matter, without really having read the proposal in its entirety. Just kind of skimmed over it.
Yeah, same here. This is fresh for a lot of people. I just heard about this idea. I think I listened to it yesterday. So it's like less than 24 hours for me, and I'm sure for many people. So I'm sure we'll have more thoughts about it. And I have a feeling that there'll be more discussions and more ideas about it in the coming days. So, and of course, everybody can change their mind as we learn more. All right, cool. Well, yeah, it's been over an hour and a half now. Does anybody else have any thoughts that you want to share, or shall we start to wrap it up soon? there's a lot more that we could discuss, of course, but being that we do have some more time, and I still have to catch up on some of the chats, and we can always do this again both next week at Sunday 16 UTC. We could also potentially discuss it at the Eden Fractal meeting. The Chief Delegates can be discussing it every Friday. I believe they're doing the live streams, and we can have lots of discussions in the chat and fireside chat and elsewhere as well too. So we don't have to get into everything now, but if anybody else does want to continue the discussion and share more thoughts or questions, then that is welcome as well. But what do you all think? Should we any more thoughts, or should we wrap it up?
Little short information here. We have the Eden Fractal brainstorming session just published a couple of days ago. So about our last of the season, Dan. That was our 3rd episode. And committed on the next year. The date is not yet defined, but there will be the continuation of the brainstorming session. And also I was coming with the platform model ecosystem, very well perceived by the community. A lot of retweets on Twitter. That sounds very logical with what is doing Tim Berners-Lee, the creator of the World Wide Web Consortium. It's a Swiss guy, by the way. He has worked for the CERN in Switzerland, very well known, a center nuclear research. And he's the creator of the World Wide Web. And it's all about mind mapping. It's all about platform model ecosystem. So we are into this with Eden Fractal, and we continue on the next year. So we are here to help other ecosystem with platform with Eden Fractal. So encourage the people to see the video. And there will be the last episode with Maurice Vanegas to close the year. On the 23rd December, I will publish the U5 workshop number 15, full spectrum power with Web3, with Maurice Vanegas, Uganda, Nigeria. They are working with EOS. They can live with that every day. They have not a banking account into their pocket like us in Europe or in US. So they know what does it mean to work with EOS. Let's circulate more EOS. And I enjoy to share the interview with Maurice Vanegas. So that's all for me. And very happy to be with you into this EOS ecosystem and Antelope and Eden. That's very nice.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you, Patrick, for sharing that. And I'm also very happy to be with you and working with you in Eden and with Antelope and everybody in the community too. I'll also just briefly share a couple other things that just popped in my mind as you mentioned that. So 2 exciting things that we should mention, actually 3 exciting things that we should mention briefly while we're here. A little update on progress of Eden Fractal. So this week at Eden Fractal, we passed 3 proposals, which is an all-time high for Eden Fractal. We passed our proposal 4, 5, and 6, I think. Previously, we passed proposals to change the time and then also to update the multi-sig. But now we press a proposal to optimize the post-breakout room meetings. And we also passed a proposal for moderator guidelines. So I'll share some links in the chat and also just briefly share my screen too so everybody can see these because they're really exciting proposals. These were crafted by Tadas. Although they were also very much inspired by the past months of discussion. So Vlad and Patrick and myself and Lenny and several other people in the community had big roles in doing this. We discussed this a lot during the brainstorming sessions as well. And this is a proposal to optimize the hour in the breakout rooms after we do the Eden plus Fractal process for the first hour and we rank contributions and elect delegates. This provides a process by which for the next hour we can choose topics and prioritize proposals and other discussion topics like announcements or promotions or if anyone wants to talk about anything like that. So Tadas, he wrote it very clearly and we approved this in the most recent week. So I'll share this in the chat and also in the video description. But yeah, basically it defines how a moderator can help host the meeting and how the community can come to consensus about what topics to discuss. Community members can come to consensus about what topics to discuss using the Valendes game with Consortium, where community members can vote on topics to discuss, and then the topics that get the most votes, they get 5-minute intervals to talk, and then people can continue. So it's in quite detail, so I won't go over it more here, but I want to say congratulations and thank you to the Eden Fractal community and everybody in the Eden community who's been helping to push these along. I think these are, like, they seem kind of, I don't know, maybe clerical or like kind of getting details, but I think that these are like profoundly helpful for communities. Now we have a first hour of Eden plus fractal process and a second hour of this new kind of game and process to help communities cooperate and make community decisions. I think this can also be helpful. We were talking about before with communities like Eden, like pioneering consensus building tools and consensus measuring tools with polls, so we can better understand consensus of communities and making decisions like we're discussing now, as well as all sorts of other decisions communities want to make or for creative purposes, for any kind of purpose. So people can check it out in the links in the description, and I'll share that in the chat. And then these are also iterated from the Valendez proposal, which at edencreators.com/Valendez, which I'll update. I haven't had the chance to update lately, but I'll update with all the most recent things here. We've got lots of art, and that explains how this game can help people cooperate in the hour after the breakout rooms with lots of information. I'll also just briefly show too, Patrick was talking about this, and typically we've been doing screen sharing to make it more engaging, but we kind of got so into the discussion this week about everything else, which has been really cool. So thanks so much, Chris, and everybody for sharing these thoughts. But I just wanted to briefly share some of the great tweets from Patrick and the bees about the brainstorming session, so people can watch that there, as well as what Patrick was talking about. Tim Berners-Lee, who's a pioneer in the internet, created the World Wide Web. So thank you, Patrick, for sharing that. And then you can read more about the PME, which is a new initiative with Eden Fractal brainstorming sessions. That's very exciting, at the Bywire article here as well. I won't get into too much detail because we just I just kind of remembered this at the last minute, but just want to share. And then lastly, you can find that there. And then I'll just say too, I did the first couple of episodes of Fractal Apple this week, which are kind of related to Eden too. I was planning on doing them before this, but I'm going to be continuing those soon. I was thinking about doing it today, but I might wait till the new year. So I just figured I'd give a quick update about that as well, because that's a show which is, I'm calling it a musical news show about creating, collaborating, and playing. And I'm going to be featuring a lot of Eden discussions there as well. So I'm excited about that. 500 milliseconds, Sing Joy, fast talk there. Yes, CAC Joy. Maybe I should slow down. I got a little bit of feedback from that after the fireside chat, so maybe I'll go more slow in the future. But anyway, I didn't want to take up too much of people's time because I know that was a little bit unexpected, but those are some cool updates I wanted to share with the community, and Patrick's comments inspired me to share that. So that's why I shared it. Thank you, Sangyong. So yeah, I'll leave my part there, and I'm curious if anybody has any thoughts about that or any other thoughts about the discussion. Once again, want to say a big thank you to Chris for joining us, and also Jesse for joining us and sharing your thoughts as chief delegates and sharing this proposal to help the Eden community, and Mo for all the great thoughts in the chat and here, and CAC Joy. I love this. I love the new name, by the way, and Sangyong and Patrick. Really appreciate everything that you're all doing and in the community as well. I'm excited for our next steps.
That's true. Dan Sinjoy is speaking very fast. That's why we have the Eden Fractal brainstorming session. We are committed with 1 hour, not more. And we have Vlad, a genius developer there. We have Tadas Betikunas. We have Lenny. We have Chris that was joining also the Eden Fractal in the last weeks. And I have to admit, I don't know for you, Dan, but the brainstorming session were very helpful to help us to come to the conclusion that we need some moderation guidelines into Eden Fractal meetings, and 24-hour the acceptation of 3 proposals in a row. That was an epic momentum into the Eden Fractal meeting. That was like a yeah baby moment. But 24 hours before, there were the brainstorming session, and that gave this result. I am very happy just for that to continue to join the Eden Fractal meetings. One reason more to join. So thank you very much, Dan, for all the work that you are doing. This Eden Town Hall, very helpful. You see today we have a good participation, and I'm very happy to collaborate with you on next year. And yeah, I think we have to wrap it up somewhere. Someone want to say something more here?
I'll just add on, likewise, Patrick.
Go Eden!
Go Eden!
Oh, no! I don't do the countdown.
Wait!
Stay quiet.
Hold on. One thing I want to say first is, everybody is welcome to join Eden Fractal events every Wednesday at 16 UTC. If you ever want to join Sangyong, it'd be great to see you there. And we could talk more about that offline if you're not sure or have any questions. And then also, next Sunday is going to be Christmas. It's going to be Sunday, December 25th. So I'm not sure if everybody will want to do town hall then, but we can, I guess, play it by ear or share, or I'm happy to do it then. But just something that I figure might be worth mentioning, because it's possible that we could take it off, but we can play it by ear and see what everybody wants to do. Other than that, I'm happy to move on with the countdown and the go EOS, unless anybody wants to share any final
Absolutely.
words. Does anyone want to share any final words first? Or are we ready to go?
Well, ready to go, ready to go.
All right.
I will
Thanks,
ask
everybody.
for
Good
Pat,
call.
Thanks,
Pat
Chris. Thanks,
Novajoy.
Sangyong.
Where is Pat Novajoy?
Thank you
Oh, Pat
everyone
Novajoy.
for your
Pat
big favor.
Novajoy is here.
Take care, guys.
So
Okay,
Thank you,
bye.
Sangyong.
I do the countdown.
Let's
So
do the countdown.
raise
Let's
your
hurry up,
hand
because I think everybody's
when
ready to
you
go.
are
I'm
when you are ready.
ready. Let's do the countdown.
Raise
If anybody's not familiar, we're gonna go 3, 2, 1, and then we're gonna go what? Go EOS.
Absolutely. Let's do
Okay.
this. So we will say go Eden on EOS. Okay. At
All
3, 2,
right.
1, 0. Okay. So 3, 2,
Two,
Go!
Oh my
one,
God.
0.
Go!
Eden on EOS.
EOS! Yes! Yeah.
You understand?
Gotcha.
Everybody.
Yes. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. It's
Yeah,
been a
baby.
pleasure. It's been
Thank
great
you,
here for
everyone.
me. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And goodbye.